Human Rights and Crime by Byron Carter. I decided to do this project because, as you can see, I'm a young black male living in a society that's currently in flux. And every day I see young teens such as myself, human rights violated, and they don't even know it. So I took this chance to educate myself on the topic human rights, so my human rights will never be violated without me knowing. So we're going to start with this introduction. First, we're going to start with the definitions, everything that you need to know about human rights and crime for this presentation. Then we're going to talk about the history. Then we're going to talk about the laws of human rights. And we're going to talk about the convert of human rights and crime and the evolution of laws. And of course, my references. Everybody needs to know what human rights are, whether you're in poverty, a young black male, or you're a wealthy, rich white guy, Caucasian. So the definition of human rights is the basic rights and freedom to which all humans are considered to be entitled, often held to include the rights to life, liberty, equality, and fair trial, freedom from slavery and torture, and freedom from thought and expression. So ultimately, human rights is being who you are without being penalized, expressing your thoughts and your beliefs as one, and being who you sought out to be, and not facing any circumstances or violations. Of course, many people know the definition of crime, but nowadays, who really knows? Because brutality and people getting convicted with stuff. But the definition of crime in the book is an illegal act for which someone can be punished by the government, especially a gross violation of the law. Now, crimes against humanity is a certain act that are deliberate and committed as a part of a widespread or systematic attack or individual attack directed against any civilian or an identifiable part of civilian population, such as a killing spree or Hitler in the Holocaust. Next, we have the laws. First, we have Title VII of Civil Rights Act 1964. This states that discrimination based on race, color, sex, and national origin is not prohibited. It's against the law. It's illegal. This law and act is really known for letting everybody have the right to vote, and also employment discrimination. You can't hire or let somebody make a certain amount of money just because the color of the skin or their sex. Next law is Titles I and Titles V of Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, which states employment discrimination against qualified individuals with disabilities. Like, this is against human rights because it's who you are, and it's nothing that you could avoid. It's not your fault you were born with disabilities or any of that, so you shouldn't be punished for that. So this is what that act came into hand for. Next is the Equal Pay Act of 1963, which is a pretty big turning point in our society. So it prohibits sex-based wage discrimination between men and women in the same establishment who perform jobs that require substantially equal skill, effort, and responsibility under similar working conditions. I say this is a big turning point in our society because humans were looked at like black males back in the day, like they were nothing. So this altered our future by allowing women to become more independent and more involved in our society. Next, we have the Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978, which states the terms because of sex on the base of sex include but are not limited to because of or nor base of pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. And women affected by pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions shall be treated the same for all employment-related purposes. And this act came into play because you can't punish a woman for doing something that's natural to us and that we thrive on as humans, but they have reproducing is what we do as a whole. So that's why this act came into play. And the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 just states Section 501 prohibits employment discrimination against individuals with disabilities, and federal sector Section 505 contains provisions governing remedies and attorney fees under Section 501. Next is very recent, and it's a very big law that came into play. It's the Same-Sex Marriage Law, and it states that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled states cannot ban same-sex marriage, thereby requiring all states to issue marriage license to same-sex couples. And my personal belief is if you just be who you are, and that's part of our human rights to be able to express ourselves and our thoughts with freedom. So that's why this law came into play and is a part of human rights. And I believe if you keep to yourself and you really love somebody, be with them. So I'm glad that this same-sex marriage law came into play for people that want to be in love with one another. And finally, we have the human rights violation / crime. It states that types of human rights violations include child trafficking, dowry, sexual harassment, early marriage, child labor, polygamy, genocide, slavery, medical experimentation, war crimes, and rape are common. And many people don't know these are part of their human rights because they just look like normal crimes. But trafficking and rape, they're all a part of your human rights. And we have genetic information discrimination. It is illegal to discriminate against employees or applicants because of genetic information. The law forbids discrimination on base of genetic information when it comes to any aspect of employment, include hiring, firing, pay, job assignments, promotions, layoffs, trainings, fringe benefits, or any term of condition of employment. I believe this is a fair law because you can't penalize somebody for their parents having cancer or firing them because a disease that runs in their family. If they're capable of doing the work, then let them do the work. The Age Discrimination in Employment Act of 1967 states that the ADEA prohibits employment discrimination against persons 40 years of age or older. Covert laws. Human rights are covertly used by children who do not know their rights, are vulnerable and easy prey for ill-intended individuals. I stated this earlier at the beginning of my presentation about how many poverty minorities don't know their human rights and often let officials and our government misuse their human rights without knowing. So that's a major factor. And also the right to protest is perceived human right. However, in Articles 10 and 11 of Human Rights Act states freedom assembly, freedom association, and freedom of speech are subject to certain limitations. So lately there's been a lot of riots and protests. I believe they've been handled correctly, but earlier times when people would protest, it would get out of hand and the officers and our officials I guess you could say to the best of their abilities. The evolution of law. As I said earlier, the gay marriage is a major evolution which just came into effect last year, 2015. This just approval of gay marriage, transgender. The title of Civil Rights Act of 1964 is basically just like gay marriage, you kind of could say, but it is illegal to discriminate against anyone on base of race, color, religion, nation, origin, or sex. So areas human rights cannot cover. Attractiveness, of course you can't judge anybody on how they look. You can, but like not to get a job or anything. And then obesity, which is a disease, wealth, and happiness. And these are my references. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. I hope you all liked it. Have a blessed day.